The hallway smelled of cheap coffee, hairspray, and nerves. Not the kind that came from fear, but the kind born in places where the truth was not welcomed, only tolerated when convenient. Jasmine Crockett sat in the green room, her heels barely touching the floor, a calmness cloaking her like armor. She wasn't nervous. She had moved past that stage a long time ago. This wasn't about stage fright or ratings. This was about what could no longer be ignored. On her lap was a folder, the kind people carry into budget hearings or depositions. Its contents weren't strategy notes or talking points. They were names, faces, stories, and one sentence that had stayed with her like a heartbeat for weeks. I don't need you to win for us. I just need you to say what they won't let us say. Caroline Levitt's voice floated in from the hallway, bright, confident, and calibrated like a wind-up doll built for sound bites. Just toss me the race question early. I've got a killer line about personal responsibility. People love stats. Jasmine didn't look up. She had heard it all before. She reached into her blazer pocket and touched the edge of a photo, a boy's face. 14. Hoodie. Soft eyes. The corner was torn. She didn't need to look at it to remember. 3 minutes to air. She stood, adjusted her navy blazer, took no deep breaths, no hype playlist, just stillness. The kind that only came when you knew the moment ahead could shift something bigger than the cameras could catch. The studio was cold, deliberately. A stage set to neutralize. But nothing about tonight would be neutral. The red light blinked on, and Jasmine Crockett lit the first match. The moderator's voice, measured and warm, carried the cadence of institutional calm, the kind you only earn after decades of not reacting to much. He looked into the lens and said plainly, "Tonight, we ask a question at the core of our national reckoning. Is systemic racism in America real, or is it a myth kept alive by politics and emotion?" The camera panned. Caroline Levitt went first. Of course, she did. The darling of a new conservative wave, with perfect diction and a smile that had been test-run in a dozen donor galas. Her tone was polished, brisk, self-assured. "Look," she began, "America isn't perfect, but this idea that the entire system is designed to fail people? That's not only outdated, it's toxic." She offered a light gesture, open palm, upward, inviting approval. "We've had a black president. We have black billionaires. How can a racist system allow that? If we keep telling people they're oppressed, they'll start believing it and stop trying. And that hurts everyone." It was a soundbite, rehearsed, practiced. It hit the ears like a jingle, catchy, forgettable. Then, silence. Jasmine didn't move. Her hands rested, folded. No eye roll, no sharp inhale. Just silence. The kind that fills a room not with emptiness but with pressure. The camera cut to her. The host turned slowly. "Congresswoman Crockett?" She looked up, not at him, not at Caroline, at the audience. A long pause. Then, like a whisper walking on steel, her voice came. "The system works, just not for all of us." You could hear a pen slip, a seat creak. The tension didn't break, it bent. Slowly. Deliberately, she continued, "I've seen the graphs too. I've heard the speeches, but I've also read the letters, the ones that don't go viral. A mother whose son was pulled over and never came home. A child who learned to keep his hands visible before he learned to spell his name." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. Each word landed like a soft mallet to the chest, not loud but deep. Caroline smirked. That same upward curl that said, "Is that all?" Jasmine looked straight into the camera now. Emotion doesn't replace facts. It adds the why. You can call these stories anecdotes. I call them warnings. And we've ignored them long enough. In the control room, no one spoke. Even the host sat still. "I wasn't always a congresswoman," Jasmine said now, turning slightly toward the host, toward the room, toward history. "I was a public defender. My first client? A 17-year-old boy named Darius. Wrong place, wrong face, no fingerprints, no camera footage. Just a shaky ID and a hoodie. I had facts. I had time-stamped alibis. I had everything, except a jury that wanted to listen. She paused. They convicted him. He didn't cry, just looked at me like he expected it. Like he knew justice wasn't built for him. The room had gone still. And Jasmine? She wasn't just testifying, she was remembering. The debate was over, but its weight remained. The moment Jasmine Crockett stepped off that stage, the world she knew had shifted. Not in the explosive burst of a revolution, but in the quiet gravity of a truth that had finally been spoken aloud, unflinching and undiluted. She walked down the hallway like someone stepping out of a courtroom where no verdict had been delivered, but justice had been heard. Maya followed a few steps behind, tablet still in hand, eyes glued to a flood of notifications. She said nothing, and Jasmine was grateful. Not all silences needed to be filled. Some were sacred. In the dressing room, the mirror lights cast a pale glow. Jasmine leaned forward slightly, hands gripping the countertop. Her reflection stared back, not tired, not triumphant, just real. Behind her, Maya finally broke the silence. CNN, MSNBC, even late-night comedy accounts are picking it up. TikTok's already cut it into threads. Your inbox is full? Jasmine asked softly, her voice almost amused. Overflowing. We're done waiting is already a hashtag. Teachers are sharing it with students. Activists are quoting it. There's one post, 3 million views in 2 hours. It just says, she didn't raise her voice. She raised the floor. Jasmine let out a small exhale. Not quite a laugh, but close. She hadn't planned to spark anything viral. What she had said wasn't meant for retweets. It was meant for Darius. For Javin. For Malik. For Tiana. For every name she could never forget and every story America had tried to. She sat down slowly, reaching into the inner pocket of her blazer. Her fingers found the photo again. Darius, still looking soft, unsure, hoodie drawn just slightly above his eyes. His face wasn't etched in tragedy. Not yet. It still carried the innocence of before. She studied it in silence. There was a knock on the door. Not rushed, not panicked, careful. Then a voice Jasmine hadn't expected. Congresswoman Crockett? The door cracked open. The moderator, silver-haired, now visibly older in the warm light, stood in the doorway. Not with cameras, not with staff. Just himself. I wanted to say thank you, he said quietly. Jasmine tilted her head slightly. For moderating? He smiled, not quite. For not needing to be moderated. Then he stepped further in. I've hosted political debates for 30 years. Seen thousands of talking points, sparring matches, media spins. But what you did out there, it wasn't debate. It was truth. She looked up at him. And truth is rare in those rooms? It's not just rare, he said. It's dangerous. People fear it because it doesn't ask for consensus. It demands recognition. He hesitated, then added, it's going to get noisy after this. I'm used to noise, Jasmine said, folding the photo gently. He nodded. I know. Just don't mistake noise for change. One's loud, the other's lasting. She nodded. I don't expect this to change everything. But something? He asked. Jasmine stood. Her voice was calm. I just wanted people to feel something again. To remember. As he turned to leave, he paused at the doorway. They will. When he was gone, Maya looked up again. You have 5 interviews lined up for the morning. Do we confirm? Jasmine glanced at the mirror, at the reflection of herself holding Darius' photo. Then slowly, she nodded. Only if they're ready to talk about the real story. No segments. No scripts. I'm not trading this moment for sound bites. Maya smiled. Understood. As Jasmine gathered her things, her phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. She opened it. No greeting. No name. Just a message. My daughter watched you tonight. She said for the first time, she believed someone in Washington saw her. Thank you. Jasmine stared at the screen for a long while. Then she put the phone down, turned out the mirror lights, and stepped into the hallway. The world hadn't changed, not yet. But it had heard, and now, it couldn't unhear. The hallway outside the studio was quieter now. The chaos had thinned into soft echoes, stagehands collecting cables, a janitor sweeping the far end, a producer whispering final notes into a headset. But every person Jasmine passed looked at her differently now. Not like a guest, not like a talking point, like something had cracked open and they weren't quite ready to close it. She stepped out into the night. Cool air, stillness. The city glowed beyond the parking lot, amber street lights, pulsing traffic, blinking skyline windows like distant eyes watching from above. Maya walked beside her, but again, neither spoke. They reached the car, and Jasmine paused with her hand on the door. "You okay?" Maya finally asked. Jasmine looked up at the sky. "No." Maya tilted her head, concerned. "But I don't need to be," Jasmine continued. "I just need to keep showing up." She got in. Maya followed. As they pulled away from the building, Jasmine's phone buzzed again. A voicemail. She tapped play. An older woman's voice filled the quiet. "Miss Crockett, my name's Evelyn. I'm 82. I marched with Dr. King. I held my breath through the 60s, prayed through the 80s, and almost gave up in the 2000s. But tonight, I stood up in my living room. I haven't stood in months without my walker. But I stood for you. Thank you, baby. Keep going." Jasmine didn't speak, just placed the phone face down in her lap and stared out the window as the city passed. Later, back in her apartment, she sat at the kitchen table, the same one she had used the night before to underline those letters. This time there was no legal pad, no folders, just a mug of tea and a stack of new emails, printed out one by Maya. Some were long, some were fragments, a single sentence, a name, a memory. She read through each one slowly. "My brother didn't survive booking. No one believed me. I'm a teacher. Today my student asked me why people don't listen to us. I showed her your clip. She cried. I've been quiet my whole life. Not anymore." The heater clicked softly behind her. A train rolled by in the distance. And Jasmine read on. By midnight, the stack was halfway done. She didn't stop, not because it was easy. Because it was necessary. Because every story deserved to be heard once by someone who believed it. And when the last page was turned, she whispered the names again, not out loud, but in her mind, like a prayer. Darius, Javin, Malik, Tiana, Tamir, Sandra, Philando. She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, something inside her had changed. Not healed, but steadied. She didn't feel victorious. She didn't feel powerful. She felt accountable. The next morning, Washington was alive before sunrise. The city that sleeps only in headlines already pulsed with noise. Jasmine's office was quiet, the hallway still dark. She arrived early, long before the aides. Long before the calls. Before the spin. She unlocked the door, flipped on the lights, and stood for a moment in the glow. There, beside the flag, was the same photo of her and her mother, holding hands at her first swearing-in, both in deep blue, their faces set in quiet defiance. She walked to her desk and opened the drawer. Inside was a folder she hadn't looked at in months. Labeled simply, "Cases They Forgot." She laid it out, opened it, and began reading, one story at a time. Because what she had said on television wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Not of a movement, of responsibility, and she would meet it head-on. One name at a time. One truth at a time. One refusal to stay silent at a time.